rhetorical speech today is we'll start with Bridget, and she's going to talk about how you had some comfort with the speech next, and she'll also talk about how you establish rapport. Next, Shirley will go with about how you inspired the audience, and finally, I will close on how you reviewed Hillary Clinton's persona as intelligent, significant, and with adequate feeling. Let's start with Bridget.
Very good. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, and especially Carolyn, I'm going to be talking about your rapport with the audience, being comfortable giving your speech, and then also how you address them. And it all kind of seems to come together as one big group here. And one thing that you wanted to make sure that we looked at is because you were planning on doing this type of speeches going forward. So to read someone else's speech, how do you relate it to all of that? Well, one, it looked like you enjoyed the speech in itself. And you have to take in consideration the audience that she was speaking to in this situation, which was all women. And so the enthusiasm, I think, would probably have been a little bit more than what we would have given you at this time. But it took you a little bit, a while to warm up into this speech and to really get going. And once you got the flow of some of this, then you started using your hands a little bit. You were looking a little bit more into the audience with us. My one suggestion, which I don't see your speech here, but I was going to look at it, but I have a feeling that all of us have different eyesight type of issues, and so when you read this type of speech, go ahead and make that print huge. So you have 6 pieces of paper there that you quietly move, but that way, because it seemed to me that you were spending more time making sure you did not lose your spot. Now, with that being said, you were very comfortable when you did, and you made a few mistakes in verbiage, but you did not show that you were discombobulated with any of that you just kept going as if that was the word, and because we have no idea. Okay, so we talked about, and then the bigger print, and then you kept going. And so you ended, when you were speaking, you drew us in because you stopped and paused effectively and you smiled on the good parts of this speech, but then your face also showed despair when you talked about some of the despair within the speech itself. I enjoyed it. It was interesting. It would have been neat to see this. I might have to go Google this and see the speech actually with the audience's interaction with all of this. But I enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Did the speaker inspire the audience? When you first started out with your speech, you smiled, you looked at the audience, you had a lot of information to share, and you started out really well. You shared it, you could tell that you had studied what you had to say, and you got the audience engaged. And I like that, so very well done. As you begin to go on and read key points in the speech, I would have liked to see more passion when you talked about the rape and the different things that the women were going through. The tone sort of stayed and you held your head down. I want to see you engage the audience, push their button and say it with a lot of force. They are being raped, they are being this, they are being that. Although Hillary may have been a little more calm, I want to see you drive those points home. But you did well. But I think you could have kept the audience right there with you. Although they were listening, because it was a lot of information. I was dead on. You had a lot of information to share, and you shared it well. But that's a key point that I would like to see more. On the other hand, the vocal variety was really well. You started off really well with the vocal variety. You could tell the passion that you had in the beginning. It began to fade a little bit, but then you picked it back up. Your sincerity was there. But key points, I would like to see you more engaged in those, in the key points. As has been said to you already, you kept your head down a little bit as you began to talk, and I feel that you lost the audience a little bit, but because they were so interested as the points you began, they got back in there. I want to see you pull them back in and keep them in. Other than that, great speech. Thank you.
Great. Carolyn? Again, fellow Toastmasters, and especially Caroline. So my role today is to evaluate how you took the original speaker, Hillary Clinton's speech portrayed it as intelligent, significant, and with adequate feeling. I have a question to ask you. Have you heard her speak before? I mean, we started.
Oh, yeah.
You did. I mean, did you hear this speech?
No.
Okay. I remember this speech, and it was, in the mid-'90s. And I also know Hillary, how she speaks today. And I think in the mid-'90s, she probably wasn't quite as vocal as she is even today. So I'm going to evaluate you on how she is today. So my apologies for back then, but I think that might help you portray some of the words even more to make it more significant. First of all, to start, I think that the way you articulated the words very carefully and succinctly and used pauses, like my teammates stated, portrayed her words as significantly intelligent. That's exactly how I know Hillary Clinton speaks. That your study of that, I think, was spot on. Nicely done. To get into the part where you make it significant, and I think you had a couple of opportunities to make it even more significant. Like what Shirley said, a little more passion there. And while you use pause extremely well, especially I looked at the place when you were talking about the women giving birth and all of that, and you smiled. And then you went to the opposite, but they're also dying there. So you use pause very well. But I can hear Hillary Clinton saying today, almost shouting that out, and also broadening out her gestures. So I could almost hear that. So I'm not certain she did that in the 90s, but I remember hearing the speech. So just, push it out there a little bit more. That might require you a little more memorization of a few lines. And I'm not suggesting all of them, but a couple of them. And that might help you interpret some of those even more. You are very professional in your stumbles, and I've heard her stumble before. Just like Bridget said, you came right back, and you came back where you needed. So you were right on base there. Did you have adequate feeling? I think what we've talked about in our evaluation, just pumping up the volume, a little bit more of the inflection, but especially the low times were especially good, and then really pushing out that her gift of throwing out words and phrases to really get them going. Bridget called it straight on. If we had the audience really kind of gotten in and clapped between it, I think we would have pumped you up even more. And that would be the benefit that Hillary Clinton had that maybe you didn't have today. So that can help a speaker, I believe. But overall, I think you selected something that you were passionate about. It showed it because your preparation was there, how you interpreted the phrases. They're very articulate, and I was very connected to your whole speech. So thank you so much for delivering such an impactful speech for your oratorical.
Wow, well, I really, really appreciate the feedback that I've gotten today, because I will be taking that not only into my next speech, but also into my practical use when I have an opportunity to speak and use others' words. And I haven't had a chance to see her do the speech, but I felt as though I was there. When I read it, I thought, this is it, this is what I want. And it was basically, famous speeches made by women, and the topic is actually why I chose it, the human rights and women. And so I appreciated your comments about making, and maybe I should make the type bigger, but also I didn't highlight those areas with red, maybe, or something like that would help me understand what I need to do with right here. And that is a great idea and a wonderful tool that I'll be using in the future. Like I said, every comment that you made is right on, and I thought, oh man, I could have done that, that would have been really good.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you.
Good. Thank you, Carolyn. And comments from the group? Joe?
James Hume, who's given written speeches for 5 presidents, said that he requires his students to triple space in bold type every speech they want to do.
Excellent idea.
All right. Thank you, Joe. Any other comments from the group?
I did this manual in the speech that I gave, and it makes me think of I gave the We Shall Fight on the Beaches speech, the one that Winston Churchill gave after the disaster at Dunkirk. And that is what I did, because I was like, what do I really want to emphasize? I went over with the highlighter, because it was through the space and bold. I did the highlighter to make sure that we really be able to emphasize what I wanted to emphasize.
Thank you. Catherine?
One of the things that I'd like to point out, when you're behind a lectern, there's very little movement that can be seen. You have your head, you have your arms somewhat. I like to point out, Caroline, that I particularly like some of your head movements. You shook your head in ways and moved your head in ways to drive home a point where I haven't seen that done before, and I particularly like that today.
I've done the manual, and one thing that I purposely did when I did mine is dress the part. Now, I don't know if you're dressed the way Hillary Clinton would have been dressed, but for me, it helped me get into the character and helped me to interpret it better. So that might be a suggestion for the future.
I think what I was thinking about Faye's speech and being Eleanor, and not necessarily the costume, but I think your vocal variety came within a narrower range than what we typically hear from you. For example, just now you were speaking like this, but you funneled it right in there.
We do have the red light, so thank you, Caroline, and thank you,